The word samsara sounds familiar yet is in fact distant. We often think this one life is everything. We are born, grow up, grow old and die. And we imagine that once we are laid beneath the mound of earth, everything is finished. But from the Buddhist view, that is only a short stretch in an endless journey. This life is neither the beginning nor the end. It is only a small segment in a ceaseless turning, a single link in the infinite chain of birth and death. The Buddha called that turning samsara the endless wheel of birth and death. Imagine a colossal wheel that never stops. Upon it, countless beings are carried along, some crushed in suffering, some briefly lifted to taste a little happiness. Yet in the end, everyone is pulled down again, spun again, repeated again. No one stands outside it. The most frightening part is that the wheel never rests, and those turning within it do not remember how many times they have been crushed. People often pride themselves on living a single life. In truth, that one life is only a short dream in a night without end. We have died and been reborn uncountable times, wearing countless forms. In this life we may be a man, yet in the last life we may have been a woman. In this life we are parents, yet in the next we may be children, strangers, or even enemies. There were lives when we were born into luxury, enjoying honor and wealth, and innumerable lives when we wandered in hunger and pain, groaned in hells, or lived in ignorance as animals. Yet when the door of one life closes, memory is wiped clean, and we begin again in naivety, thinking this life is everything. The Buddha once told his disciples, "You have wandered through birth and death for innumerable lifetimes beyond counting. If the tears you have shed from separations and farewells were gathered, they would be more than the waters of the 4 oceans." That single statement lays bare the ultimate dreadfulness of samsara. It is not living once and dying once, but an unending repetition of suffering, loss, parting, and the cycle of birth, aging, sickness, and death, stretching life after life with no conclusion. Samsara is also terrifying because it has no natural stopping point. However long a river is, it meets the sea. However long the wind blows, it falls still. However fiercely a fire burns, it dies down. But the wheel of samsara has no day of rest. It turns and turns from beginningless time and into the endless future. It contains no ending within itself. Beings escape only through awakening, by cutting the root of ignorance. Some say that life holds joy, that it is not only suffering. That is true, but joy in samsara is like lightning in the night. A quick flash, blinding and gone, while the darkness remains vast. A child is cherished by parents, yet must face their aging. Loss cannot be avoided. A couple loves each other deeply, yet death will part them. A person succeeds and grows wealthy and happy, yet in the end leaves empty-handed, carrying nothing but karma. Brief pleasure only deepens the sting that follows, like a sip of sweet water before falling back into a desert of thirst. Samsara is even more fearsome because it deceives beings with illusions. Fleeting happiness intoxicates us, makes us cling, keeps us from letting go. The rich fear losing wealth, the poor long to be rich. Those in love fear parting, the lonely long for romance. Every desire and every attachment is another cord binding us to the wheel. We think we are pursuing happiness, but in truth we only prolong the turning of suffering. More dreadful still, each time we die we forget. Like an actor in an endless play, finishing one role only to don the costume of another. In this life a father, in the next perhaps a son. In this life a married couple, in the next perhaps adversaries. So many roles have passed, so many scripts rewritten, yet never once have we left that stage. The audience is ignorance. The director is karmic force. We act and act until exhausted and worn, never knowing when we may rest. If someone asks what is most frightening about samsara, the answer is this: it never stops, and we do not remember how many times we have suffered. That forgetfulness is the deepest tragedy. If everyone clearly remembered having been beasts of burden, having fallen into hells, having wept dry over the loss of loved ones, no one would dare be heedless or create unwholesome karma. But because we forget, we repeat, we commit the same mistakes, and we sow new karma again. Samsara is like a burning house in which beings slumber. Flames have already climbed the roof. Smoke fills the rooms, yet those inside still dream, that they are safe in a lovely sleep. In a moment, the fire will consume everything. The Buddha appeared to awaken beings, to show that the house is on fire, the wheel grinds on the turning binds us, and the only way out is mindfulness and awakening. Human life is brief, while samsara is endless. If we do not quickly recognize this truth, we will remain like a drop of water caught in a cataract world without end, and never finding the calm sea. Looking deeply into samsara, we see that what we call a lifetime is but a small instant in a vast tragedy where suffering is reenacted without end, and happiness is a passing mirage. Understanding this, we naturally give rise to the wish for liberation and seek the path out of the wheel of birth and death. When we speak of samsara, we often think of being born human, and after death perhaps being reborn as another person. In reality, the turning is far broader and more fearsome. In the Buddha's teaching, beings revolve among 6 realms: gods, asuras, humans, animals, hungry ghosts, and hell beings. These 6 are like 6 doors opening onto 6 roads of rebirth. When one door closes, we do not know which will thrust us out next. Imagine that after death, we are like a die thrown into space. Which face will land? Who will we be in the next life? A king on a throne, or a dog chained before a house? A celestial maiden among fragrant heavens, or a hungry ghost crawling in thirst? No one can foretell, because it is karmic force that casts the die, and karma is being made each day and each hour by our actions, speech, and thoughts. The human realm where we live is said to be a place where suffering and joy mingle. We have the chance to practice, yet face many temptations. Sometimes we meet the Dharma, sometimes we drown in desire and create karma that drags us lower. Gaining a human birth is as hard as a blind turtle surfacing in the ocean and by chance slipping its head through a floating yoke. Consider the rare good fortune we now possess. How are we using it? The heavenly realm sounds like a dream. The devas enjoy ease and joy, radiant beauty, long lives, and subtle sensual delights. Yet when their merit is exhausted, they fall, and the higher they have risen, the more painful the fall. Happiness there is, like standing on a mountaintop, gazing at boundless splendor, only to slip suddenly and plunge into a ravine. Are we certain that the pleasures we cling to are not fragile illusions? The Asura realm is the world of the powerful, blessed with merit, yet filled with anger and jealousy. They are like generals forever marching to war, endlessly contending. Though they live in abundance, their hearts never rest. Ask yourself in this life, how many times have we let jealousy burn within us until we behave like those Asuras? The animal realm may be the image that chills us most. A buffalo forced to pull a plow, scorched by sun and soaked by rain, its life nothing but labor. Chickens and ducks raised only to be killed. A faithful dog devoted for a lifetime may in the end be abandoned or abused by its owner. If one day we had to bear such a body, could we endure it? Are we sure we are not planting the causes that lead to an animal rebirth? The hungry ghost realm is filled with beings plagued by endless hunger and thirst, with throats as thin as needles and bellies like drums. Sometimes they see a lake and run to it, but the water turns to fire. Sometimes they see a sumptuous feast, yet upon arrival it has become ashes. Ask yourself, whenever we live in greed, hoarding, and never knowing enough, are we not sowing the causes of becoming hungry ghosts? Hell is the extremity of suffering. In Avicii hell, the flames roar and the punishments are beyond imagination. The condemned are burned to ash, then return to life only to be killed again. The agony does not pass in a moment, but can last tens of thousands of years. Consider this: a 3-day fever already leaves us exhausted. If we were to endure hell for tens of thousands of years, could we bear it? These 6 realms are like 6 vast whirlpools. According to our karma, we are swept into one or another. What is frightening is that most beings have no idea where they will go. We simply live, create karma, and let the current carry us along. Have you ever asked yourself, if I sleep tonight and never wake again, where will I go? Can you be sure you will continue as a human? Or might you fall into one of the other 5 realms where suffering multiplies many times over? The Buddha said that it is hard to obtain a human body and hard to hear the true Dharma. This human life is the boat that carries us across the sea of suffering. If we lose it, we may sink for countless eons and never again meet the teaching. Yet people often squander their lives in indulgence, jealousy, and anger. When death arrives, karma drives them onward, and there is no longer any choice. Revolving through the 6 realms is like a gamble, except beings do not even realize they are placing a bet. The die is cast by the small karmic moments of each day. A harsh word, a greedy thought, a flare of anger all contribute to where we will go. When the die lands, we have only the result to accept. Who wants to be a hungry ghost? Who wants to be an animal shrouded in ignorance? Who wants to fall into a Vici hell? Certainly no one. Yet beings keep planting the causes for those realms, like someone who fears a house fire yet secretly lights a candle beneath a thatched roof. If we look deeply into the 6 paths, we understand why the Buddha called samsara terrifying. It is not merely dying and living again. It is the sudden plunge into any realm at all. There is no certainty and no choice. The more clearly we look, the smaller and more fragile we feel before the power of karma. Therefore, when we hear of the 6 realms of rebirth, instead of treating it as a distant tale, we should ask, if death came right now, where would I go? Which karma is steering me? What have I prepared for this endless journey? These are the questions that can jolt us awake. The answer is one only we can give, by looking back at our life and into our own mind to know which door we are preparing to open in the next life. Among the 6 realms, perhaps the most chilling is hell. It is not by accident that the Buddha repeatedly described hell in vivid, fearsome detail to warn beings. If people understood even a small part of the suffering there, they would no longer dare to be heedless or to create unwholesome karma. Picture a colossal steel furnace, glowing red flames leaping thousands of feet high. Into it the wicked are cast flesh, burning bones, dissolving screams resounding. Yet unlike worldly fire which burns once and is finished, the hellfire burns then grants life again, only to burn again. Death brings no release. It only opens another round of torment, sometimes lasting tens of thousands or millions of years until the karma is exhausted. The scriptures describe many levels of hell: hot hells, cold hells, hells of cutting and slicing, hells of crushing and grinding. Some are hung upside down and sawn to pieces. Some have molten copper poured into their mouths, their entrails melting away. Some are boiled in cauldrons of oil flames, blazing skin seared and bones destroyed. Others are flayed by cutting winds, shriveling in freezing cold, shivering to the limit, dying and reviving again. Hearing this, some may ask whether hell truly exists or whether it is merely a frightful tale to scare people into being good. But ask yourself, a few days of high fever already leaves you limp. A small burn can make you wince with pain. If there truly is a realm of flames, ice, and unending tortures, could you endure it? And if karma dragged you there, who could save you? Have you ever considered that, if in this very life you commit grave wrongs, killing, robbing, deceiving, destroying, where will that karma send you? Can you be sure that you will not have to step through the gate of hell? The most terrifying thing about hell is not only bodily pain but unending despair. In the human world, we may be sick or poor, yet we still have hope. Hope for medicine, for good fortune, for a day when the suffering passes. In hell there is no hope, no one to save you, no tomorrow to await. There is only the endless repetition of suffering. That is the deepest fear. The scriptures record that some fall into hell for greed, some for anger, some for sexual misconduct, some for false speech and abusive speech. We often think a small lie, a curse, or a fleeting moment of anger is nothing. Yet those seeds, if nurtured over time with sufficient conditions, ripen into great retribution and hurl us into realms we never imagined. Like a tiny spark that left to spread can burn down an entire forest. Have you ever been so angry that you wished to curse someone, so greedy that you ignored right and wrong? Have you ever deceived others for your own gain? If so, ask yourself in those moments, for which realm are you planting seeds? There is a Paskinsei story in Buddhism about a hunter who slew countless wild animals. When he died, he fell into hell. In the blazing fire, innumerable arrows pierced his body, and the pain was unbearable. He cried out, "Why must I suffer like this?" A demon's voice replied, "You once brought pain to countless beings. The retribution has returned. No one is punishing you. This is your own karma." Hearing this, some feel it is unfair. In truth, it is the law of cause and effect. We reap exactly what we sow. No one else grants reward or inflicts punishment. Hell is not an external power invented to frighten us. It is the realm that appears from the unwholesome mind, karma of beings themselves. Some scoff, "I don't believe in hell," but belief or disbelief does not make hell vanish. Not believing in fire does not stop fire from burning, and not believing in illness does not keep illness from afflicting. So instead of doubting, why not live virtuously so that if hell truly exists, we will not fall into it? The Buddha once asked his disciples, "Are you afraid of hell?" All answered, "Yes, we are." The Buddha said, "If you fear it, then do not create the causes that lead to hell." This simple statement is the key. However terrifying hell may be, it never lies outside the law of cause and effect. If we do not sow unwholesome causes, hell will have no place for us. Thus, what is most frightening is not where hell might be, but the unwholesome thoughts in our daily life. It is they that open that crimson gate, and if we do not awaken in time, we may fall there in the very next life and suffer long. So right now, dare to ask yourself, if today were the last day of your life, can you be sure the door that opens for you will not be hell? If hell is the realm of red-hot torment and freezing pain, then the hungry ghost realm is the realm of ceaseless hunger and thirst, craving that is never satisfied. Among the 6 realms, hungry ghosts are the tragic image of beings tormented by their own greed, stinginess, and selfishness. The Buddha described many forms of hungry ghosts, the most common having bellies like drums, throats like needles, and mouths that spew flames. Because of this, they always carry a burning thirst within. They see water and rush toward it, but the moment it touches their lips, it turns into red fire that scorches their entrails. They see fine food and rejoice, but when it enters their mouths, it turns to ash impossible to swallow. For hundreds or even thousands of years, they cannot swallow a single grain of rice, not even a sip of water. Some species of hungry ghosts roam endlessly, seeing a clear lake before them. As they approach, the lake dries up. Others behold orchards laden with fruit and blossoms. But the instant they touch them, everything becomes thorns and dead branches. Nothing edible at all. This is the ultimate irony. Yearning is always before their eyes, yet they can never grasp it. Hearing this, do you catch a glimpse of yourself in this very life? When we crave something, money, power, affection, we chase after it. But when we finally grasp it, it dissolves, leaving emptiness. Sometimes we yearn for a lifetime, yet when we obtain it, we still feel unsatisfied. Is this not the hungry ghost mind latent within each of us? In the Sutra of Hungry Ghosts, the Buddha recounts many kinds of hungry ghosts. Some can eat only foul blood and pus. When they see excrement, they scramble for it and treat it as a delicacy. Some have mouths that are always aflame. The moment they open them, they are burned and cannot utter a single word. Some have huge heads and tiny limbs, crawling everywhere in great misery. Some spend their whole lives fleeing, beaten, and tormented by other spirits. Most frightening of all, the time spent in the hungry ghost realm is exceedingly long. Some beings are reborn there for thousands, even tens of thousands of years. During that time, every moment is relentless torment. If fasting from food and water for a single day is already unbearable, then if one had to endure hunger and thirst for thousands of years, could one possibly bear it? What causes lead to the hungry ghost realm? The Buddha taught that it is the karma of greed, stinginess, and selfishness, never giving, never sharing. The person who keeps everything for themselves, who never helps anyone, who refuses to offer even a drop of water or a mouthful of food. The wealthy miser who turns a cold face to the suffering of others, who even cheats and seizes what belongs to them. That narrow heart becomes the retribution of vast belly and a needle-thin throat. Thirsty but unable to drink, hungry but unable to eat. Have you ever gripped something in your hand, unwilling to let anyone touch it, afraid of loss, afraid of depletion? Have you ever seen a suffering person by the roadside and felt no stirring of compassion? Have you ever begrudged so small a bit of wealth that you could not bring yourself to share? If so, ask yourself, are you nurturing the seed of the hungry ghost in your own heart? The hungry ghost realm is not far away. Sometimes it appears right here in this world. A poor person perpetually hungry and thirsty, drifting and destitute, always feeling lacking, always craving, yet never enough. Is that not already living like a hungry ghost? A rich person with bottomless greed for whom nothing is ever sufficient, scheming day by day, tormented by the fear of loss. Is that not also bearing the hungry ghost mind? In truth, both hell and the hungry ghost realm are projections of the mind. When the mind is scorched by anger, we are in hell. When it is tormented by insatiable greed, we are in the hungry ghost realm. Seen this way, we need not wait until a future life. Sometimes, even in this life, we have tasted the suffering of hungry ghosts. So, do you dare ask whether a hungry ghost is growing in your own heart? Each time we are selfish, each time we are greedy, are we not pushing ourselves closer to that realm of eternal hunger? The Buddha taught that the antidote to hungry ghost karma is nothing other than generosity and compassion. A drop of water, given a mouthful of rice, shared a helping smile. All are ways to shatter stinginess at its root. When we learn to give and to open our hearts, the hungry ghost seed within gradually withers. Consider this. If you were to leave this life tomorrow, would you rather carry with you a heart full of selfishness or a heart full of compassion? Would you rather be remembered as a miser or as a generous person? Most important, where do you? I wish to go to the realm of hungry ghosts, or along a brighter, more peaceful path, among the 6 realms of rebirth. If hell is the place of torment and hungry ghosts, the place of hunger and thirst, then the animal realm is the realm of ignorance and servitude. Look around this life and you will see animals everywhere. Pause and observe, and you will understand why an animal rebirth is a fearsome suffering. Imagine a water buffalo throughout its life. It is bound to a yoke plowing under sun and rain. Each day, it strains its back in the fields. When the plowing season ends, it pulls carts. When carting ends, it bears heavy loads. When it grows old and weak, no longer strong enough to work, it is taken to market and slaughtered. It lives in bondage and dies beneath the butcher's knife, never once knowing freedom. Or a chicken, from the moment it hatches, it is confined in a narrow cage, fed only to grow quickly, and then one day, it is seized, its throat cut, scalded in boiling water, plucked and butchered. Its pitiful cries ring out, yet no one understands, and no one saves it. It has no right to live, and no right to die. Its fate lies entirely in the hands of others. Have you ever seen the eyes of an abandoned dog? They are sorrowful and disappointed. It seems to understand, yet cannot speak. It has been utterly loyal to its owner, but if the owner has no need of it, it is beaten, starved, and thrown into the street. It cannot resist and cannot seek justice. The suffering of the animal realm lies not only in slaughter, but also in ignorance and delusion. Animals lack wisdom, do not understand moral truth, and cannot distinguish right from wrong. Even if they wished to practice the path, they would not know how. That condition is a great lost opportunity, for as humans we can still hear the Dharma and train the mind, while as animals this is almost impossible. What causes lead people to fall into the animal realm? The Buddha taught that it is the karma of delusion, wrong views, selfish living, and harming living beings. One who does not distinguish good from evil, lives in ignorance, and does wrong without remorse, may fall into the animal realm at death. Those who habitually curse, rage, and live greedily often plant the causes to become animals. Have you ever found yourself living like an animal? Going to work in the morning, sleeping at night, eating and drinking, seeking pleasure, knowing nothing beyond immediate desires. When the mind revolves only around eating, sleeping, and indulgence, it is no different from planting the causes of an animal rebirth. Another frightening point is that time in the animal realm is not short. Some species live for decades in suffering, some live only a few months before being killed. When they die because ignorance has not ended and karma is not exhausted, they are reborn as animals again. That cycle can continue for thousands or tens of thousands of lives, with no knowing when there will be release. Consider this: if tomorrow you opened your eyes and found yourself in the body of a cow with a ring through its nose led away by people, or in the body of a chicken awaiting slaughter, or in the body of a stray dog starving on the street, how would you feel? Could you bear it? Many people shudder and feel pity when they see animals slaughtered, yet few look deeply enough to see that we ourselves may be reborn there if we plant unwholesome causes. If we have killed, spoken harshly, and lived in ignorance, the retribution of an animal rebirth is not far away. The Buddha once reminded us that in the endless round of rebirth, no one has failed to be an animal. This means each of us, through countless lives, has taken bodies as cows, horses, dogs, cats, chickens, and ducks. We have only forgotten. If we do not practice, such a fate can easily return in the next life. Are you sure that in your next life you will not become a buffalo beaten by people? Are you sure you will not become a chicken in a coop awaiting slaughter? This is the true fear of samsara. We do not command our destiny. Once unwholesome karma has gathered enough force, we are compelled to fall into that realm, and no one can save us. So what must we do to avoid it? The answer is clear. Live with wisdom. Do not let ignorance lead you. Keep the 5 precepts. Do not kill. Do not steal. Do not commit sexual misconduct. Do not lie. Do not drink alcohol. These are the protective fences that keep us from sliding into an animal body. Have you ever asked yourself, if I were to die today, is my karma bright enough to continue as a human, or will I drift down into an animal rebirth? If that question makes you shudder, then that is the bell of awakening. When speaking of the 6 realms, many tremble at the mention of hell, hungry ghosts, and animals. But when they hear of the heavenly realm, they secretly think that to be born there would be wonderful. Indeed, the heavenly realm is far more joyful and splendid than the human world. The devas have long lifespans, and beautiful forms dwell in palaces of precious jewels, partake of ambrosial nectar, listen to celestial music, are free from illness, and have minds less troubled by afflictions. Compared with the human world, that life seems like a dream. In the scriptures, the Buddha describes 6 heavens of the desire realm, then 18 heavens of the form realm, and highest of all the 4 heavens of the formless realm. In those realms, the devas live for very long spans. For example, in the realm of the 4 great kings, one day and night equals 50 human years. The devas there live for 500 years, which converts to many thousands of human years. The higher the realm, the greater the lifespan, and the more exquisite the joy. In some heavens, the devas live for millions of human years. Hearing this, do you feel desire stirring? Have you ever wished to be born in the heavens to enjoy those delights? Yet the Buddha taught that the heavenly realm is still within samsara, and for that reason it remains fearful. Why? Because happiness in the heavens is not eternal. It rests on finite merit. When merit is exhausted, the devas fall. That fall is even more agonizing, for the higher one rises, the more wretched the descent. Imagine a balloon filled with air floating high in the sky, shimmering in sunlight. All who see it admire it, but gradually the air leaks out. It slowly sinks and finally drops into the mud covered in dust, and no one cares for it anymore. The happiness of the devas is like that. The scriptures say that when a deva's merit is nearly spent, the radiance of the face fades. Brilliant garments turn filthy. The body's natural fragrance becomes a foul odor. Heavenly friends draw away and avoid them. Knowing they are about to fall, their hearts are filled with fear. This scene is called the appearance of the 5 signs of decline. The flowers on the head wither, the garments become dirty, sweat appears, the body loses its fragrance, and joy is no more. From their resplendent heights, they plunge into one of the remaining 5 realms. Sometimes they become human, sometimes animals, sometimes hungry ghosts, and sometimes even hell beings. Think of a person standing on a mountaintop enjoying the vast clouds and sky, then slipping and tumbling into a ravine. What pain could be greater? Happiness in the heavens is just like that. In the midst of incomparable pleasure, one day the merit ends, and immediately there is a fall into suffering. In truth, the heavens are not nirvana. They are only rest stops within samsara, where beings enjoy the fruits of good deeds they once performed. When the merit runs out, they must continue to revolve. This is why the Buddha taught that even ascent to the heavens is not liberation. So if you think that by doing good today you might be born in the heavens tomorrow, ask yourself whether that is truly secure, or is it only a luxurious station, after which you still return to the road of suffering. Someone asks, if the heavenly realm is so happy, why did the Buddha advise us not to aspire to be reborn there? Because he saw clearly that such happiness is a mirage, like a thirsty person seeing an oasis in the desert running toward it, only to find it is a shimmer on the sand. The happiness of the heavens is real, yet not enduring. It is subject to impermanence, arising and ceasing, rise and fall. Moreover, by living long in ease, the devas often lose the aspiration for the path. Because they are so comfortable, they think little of suffering, seldom arouse the mind to practice, and so their merit is easily exhausted, and they fall. In contrast, in the human realm, because there is enough suffering, people give rise to the will to practice and see clearly the truth of impermanence. Therefore, among the 6 paths, the human realm is the most favorable place to attain awakening. Does this feel familiar to you? When life is too convenient, we often forget the Dharma. When we have too much wealth, we often relax into indulgence. At that moment, we are like devas, unknowingly consuming their merit. The question then is this: do we want a fragile happiness or an everlasting liberation? Do we want to be a radiant deva for a few thousand years and then fall? Or do we want to transcend samsara and reach nirvana, free from birth and death? The Buddha said that the wise do not seek heavenly merit. The wise seek only liberation. Only when we escape the wheel of birth and death do we cease to fall into any realm at all. In human life, one of the greatest joys is to live beside those we love. The love of parents, the bond of spouses, the love between children and parents, and the friendship among companions make this life feel warm and steady. Yet those very bonds of love seen in the light of samsara conceal a boundless fear, the endlessness of separation. The Buddha said, "Throughout countless lifetimes in samsara, it is rare that we have not been parents, siblings, spouses, and children to one another. This means that those we love today may have been close to us in innumerable past lives, but ignorance hides this from us. Worse still, such bonds are not enduring. When death comes, each person is led by their karma in a different direction. Some fall into hell, some become hungry ghosts, some are reborn as animals, some ascend to the heavens. Each walks a separate road, no one goes with another. Consider this. Parents love their children with all their heart, nurture them, teach them, and sacrifice a lifetime. Yet after death, who can be sure that in the next life they will meet their child again, or that the child will not be born elsewhere in a completely different and unfamiliar condition? At times, the one who was a parent becomes the child in a later life. At times, spouses who loved each other deeply become siblings in the next life, or even adversaries. At times, the child you cradle in your arms today is reborn later as a household pet, still affectionate toward you, yet remembering nothing. The deepest sorrow is that even the most intimate bonds are cut by impermanence. There is no guarantee that we will remain together forever. Death divides the path. The current of samsara carries us away until we become strangers. Do you dare face this truth? That your dearest will also leave you, and across endless lifetimes that separation has repeated without count. In the scriptures, the Buddha once asked his disciples, "Do you see the bones of your fathers, mothers, siblings, spouses, and children from innumerable past lives? If gathered together, they would pile higher than Mount Sumeru." This means we have wept for lost loved ones so many times that the tears are more than the waters of the 4 oceans. When we weep for the loss of loved ones in this life, is it not a repetition of the same old play? There is a story in Buddhism. A woman lost her only child, and in the depths of grief carried the body to the Buddha and begged him to restore the child to life. The Buddha told her to fetch a handful of mustard seeds from a house where no one had ever died. She went through the city but found that no household had escaped death. When she returned, she awakened to the truth that separation by death is a law no one can avoid. Have you ever seen a mother weeping beside her child's coffin, a wife crying before her husband's portrait, an orphan sitting quietly, gazing at departed parents? Those tears have flowed without end through the cycle of rebirth, and most tragically so. After death, they do not recognize one another. They begin another round of life. They love others again, and they part again. If you knew that your loved ones today are only temporary companions, would you still cling and suffer when you lose them? And if you knew that all bonds are impermanent, would you learn to love fully in the present rather than grasp to keep forever? In samsara, family affection is like a play. Today you play the father, tomorrow you are the child. Today you are the wife, tomorrow you are the husband. When the play ends and the curtain falls, everyone changes roles and no one remembers the previous role. The play is performed again and again, and we remain captivated by the tragedy of love and separation. So the question for ourselves is this: do we want to keep acting in that play of separation without end? Or do we want to step off the stage and seek everlasting peace? Only awakening can cut the endless cycle of parting. When nirvana is attained, love is no longer bound by roles. Parents, spouses, and children become an egoless love that embraces all, and the fear of loss is gone. Have you ever asked yourself what you would see if one day you had the special power to look through the night of time and see clearly all your past lives? When the Buddha realized awakening, he attained the knowledge of past lives and remembered innumerable existences. He saw in countless lives where he had been born, who he had been, how he had lived, how he had died, and how he was born again. He had been a king, an official, a farmer, an animal, a hungry ghost, and he had suffered the torments of hell. He saw it all as if watching an endless film that plays again and again without conclusion. If you had that power, you would surely be shaken. You would see yourself once seated upon a throne praised by multitudes, and then a few lives later, a beggar by the road despised by others. You would see a life where you wielded authority and led armies into battle, and the next life, a defeated soldier cut down on the field. You would see a life of wealth with more food than you could consume, and another life wandering as a hungry ghost in unending thirst. In one life you would be the parent raising a child, and in another you would be that very child taking on a completely different role. In one life you would be a devoted wife, and in the next a stranger, even an enemy. If you remembered it all, you would understand why the Buddha exclaimed, "The round of birth and death is truly wearisome." Have you ever considered that if tonight you dreamed you had died thousands of times, wept for the loss of a child tens of thousands of times, and screamed in hell millions of times, then upon waking would you still find this life worth clinging to? In the scriptures the Buddha said, "Bhikkhus, I recall countless lives in which I have been a king, an official, a commoner, and an animal, born again and again, dying again and again, only repeating without end. Truly futile, truly wearying. Imagine you are watching a very long film. At first it is gripping, but when that film repeats thousands of times with the same plot and only different actors, how would you feel? Surely bored and weary. Samsara is the same. An endless feature that changes settings and roles while the content remains birth, aging, illness, death, suffering, loss, resentment, and parting. Do you want to watch that repeat forever, or do you want to turn off the screen, step out of the theater, and look for another truth? The most frightening thing is that through ignorance we do not remember. Because we do not remember, we find the present role exciting. We think we are becoming a king for the first time, loving for the first time, suffering for the first time. In truth, we have acted these scenes countless times already. Have you ever felt a strange familiarity on meeting someone new or arriving at an unfamiliar place as if you had been there before? Perhaps these are fragments of memory left from past lives. Then we forget again and keep repeating. If you could truly see your countless lives, you would understand that samsara is not a thrilling adventure, but a monotonous wheel that wears down the heart. This is why the Buddha resolved to find the path of liberation. So ask yourself, if you could see the millions of lives already past, Would you still wish to continue in samsara? With only a brief glimpse, you would long for release, like a prisoner in a dark cell for thousands of years who longs only for a door out. The Buddha is the one who pointed to that door, the Noble Eightfold Path. In the Buddha's teaching, there is a truth that makes anyone shudder. Karma once created is never lost. It is like a seed sown in the earth. Even if you forget it or neglect it, it remains there waiting for the right conditions to sprout. Karma is the cord that pulls beings around in samsara. One life follows another without end. Imagine that every action, every word, every thought is a stone cast upon a lake. A small stone makes small ripples. A large stone makes large ripples. These ripples do not vanish. They spread and spread until they reach the shore. Our life is that lake. Every wholesome or unwholesome intention raises a ripple that will return to us in this life or in a future one. What does this mean? It means no action is meaningless. A kindly look, a gentle smile, a loving word all create good karma that brings peaceful results. Conversely, an angry thought, a cutting word, a cruel deed plants seeds of suffering that will ripen sooner or later, whether in this life or another. Thus, accumulated karma is accumulated debt. Imagine a person who borrows again and again. At first, only a few coins, later hundreds, thousands, then tens of thousands. Each time without repaying, he borrows more. The debt swells until it binds him for a lifetime with no way out. Samsara is like that. In every life, how much karma have we made, and how much of it have we repaid? Have you ever asked what you did in past lives? How many lives you have taken, how much harm you have caused, how many unwholesome seeds you have sown, and whether the sufferings you meet today are the fruits of what you once did? The Buddha taught that beings are the owners of their karma, the heirs of their karma, born of their karma, related to their karma, governed by their karma, and reborn according to their karma. This statement is like an impartial verdict. No one else rewards or punishes us. We create our own karma and reap its results. There is a story of a cruel king who slaughtered his people. After death, he fell into hell and suffered for thousands of years. When his hellish karma was exhausted, he was reborn as an ox and spent a lifetime pulling carts under the whip. That was the retribution for his former evil. Yet because in that royal life, he had also done a few good deeds after paying the animal karma, he was born human again, continuing both to enjoy merit and to repay debts. In this way, wholesome and unwholesome karma interweave like a net that binds beings tightly. Do you see the fearful point? Even when you die, your karma does not die with you. It follows like a shadow through life after life without leaving. If wholesome karma is abundant, you are reborn in fortunate realms. If unwholesome karma is abundant, you fall into woeful realms. Most crucial of all, most of us keep creating new karma, while the old debts remain unpaid, like a debtor who not only fails to repay but borrows more each day. Think about it. In a single day, how many moments of greed arise, how many flashes of anger, how many careless words that wound others. One life has tens of thousands of days. 1,000 lives have how many millions of days, and how much karma has accumulated. If gathered together, would it not be an enormous debt? Some think small karma does not matter. Remember the Buddha's teaching. Throw a small stone into a shallow pond, and it sinks, but throw a small stone into the deep ocean, and it scarcely matters. Likewise, a small unwholesome deed can still be enough to drag one down into suffering if one does not cultivate or make merit. But if one lives virtuously and develops deep merit, that small evil is like a stone falling into the ocean with little effect. Do you wish to be a perpetual debtor? Do you want to finish paying in this life only to shoulder more in the next, on and on without end? Or do you want to end the debt through practice and awakening? The Buddha pointed out that only liberation brings the end of borrowing and repayment. When we cultivate, transform the mind, and live with wisdom and compassion, we stop creating new, unwholesome karma. Then the debt is gradually paid off without further borrowing. At that point, we are no longer bound by karma and no longer driven into rebirth. So ask yourself, today, am I living as one who repays debts, or as one who keeps borrowing? Am I lightening my karma, or adding more weight to the burden of future lives? Within the wheel of samsara, there is a vicious loop that keeps beings from escape the cycle of revenge and retaliation. The Buddha taught that wrong repaid with wrong continues life after life without end. A single malicious thought or harmful act creates a bond of enmity. When death comes, it does not disappear, but follows into the next life where the parties meet again to demand and repay old debts, and the chain lengthens without end. Consider this. In this brief life, how much harm have we caused? A careless word can leave someone in pain for years. A greedy act can deprive another and create bitter resentment. Those who were harmed, if they cling to hatred, will through the connection of karma meet us again after death to collect the old debt. There is a story in the scriptures. Two people were once friends. One day they fought over property and turned against each other. One killed the other. The one who was killed clung to hatred, was reborn in the next life, and sought to harm his former friend. Thus friends became enemies, and enemies prolonged the feud. Kill in this life, repay in the next. The cycle turns without end. Have you ever wondered why some people hate each other at first sight for no apparent reason? Or why some are born into oppression and abuse? It may be a debt from past lives. Wars and blood feuds between clans and nations often do not begin in a single lifetime, but stretch across many. Look at history, countless wars with heads rolling and blood flowing, people killing people, nations hating nations. Who would suspect that the resentful dead are reborn to seek revenge, perpetuating the blaze? Without the wisdom of awakening, that warfare never ends. Daily life is the same. An insult today can become tomorrow's enmity. A small conflict left unresolved can harden into a long hatred. Carried into samsara, it does not disappear. It grows, binding us to meet again as adversaries. Dare you imagine that the person you hate today might be the one you killed in a past life, and the one harming you now may only be repaying what you once did, the Buddha taught. To answer hatred with hatred only layers hatred upon hatred. Only compassion brings it to an end. The cycle of revenge will lengthen forever if we respond with enmity. Only when one side stops choosing love to dissolve hatred can the vicious loop cease. Think of it. Someone harms you, you hate them, and you find a way to harm them back. Not finished in this life, the feud continues in the next. When will it end? How many lifetimes before we stop killing and harming one another? Without awakening, samsara is a battlefield without end, where everyone is someone's enemy. In one verse, the Buddha said that in this world, hatred is never appeased by hatred. If we try to end hatred with hatred, it never ends. Only compassion ends hatred. This is an eternal truth. Do you want to live inside an endless cycle of vengeance? Do you want to be killed in this life, kill in the next, and be killed again in another without end? Or will you stop in this very life by learning forgiveness and love, breaking one link in the chain of revenge? In the end, the most frightening foe is not outside, but the hatred in our own minds. It is this that ties us to samsara. If we can let it go, the cycle of wrong repaid with wrong stops. That is the first step out of the sea of suffering. One of the most fearful aspects of samsara is not only suffering, but that we never remember what has gone before. We die in this life and are reborn in the next with memory wiped clean. We enter a new life naively, thinking it is the first time. In reality, we have walked this road countless times, but ignorance shrouds us and we forget. Picture us as amnesiacs. A person without memory may repeat the same mistake again and again without realizing it's suffering each time and repeating it once more. Beings in samsara are the same. Each life seems a blank page, but in fact it continues thousands of torn-out pages we no longer recall. Ask yourself, if we remembered past lives, we would not dare repeat our mistakes. If we remembered how we suffered because of anger, greed, and lust, we would abandon greed, hatred, and delusion. But because we forget, we repeat. Forgetting that lust once killed us, we chase lust again. Forgetting we once lost everything through greed, we continue to be greedy. The Buddha said, because of ignorance beings drift, because they do not remember they continue to create karma. He used a powerful image. Ignorance is like a thick night. In the dark, people stumble in circles, bumping and hurting themselves. With light, we walk straight. Without light, we wander the maze. Have you ever felt familiarity on meeting a stranger or arriving somewhere you have never been, and feeling as though you've been there before? Perhaps these are fragments of past life memory, lingering in the subconscious. Yet we quickly forget and sink back into oblivion. The truly frightening thing about this forgetting is that we never learn our lesson. A student who goes to an exam having forgotten all the old material will never progress. So too with beings in samsara. Each life we start from scratch, then forget it all, then err again, then suffer again. Thus innumerable lives pass without maturation. Do you want to live like a foolish student who takes the test forever and never advances a grade? Do you want to study the lesson of suffering forever and never learn it by heart? On the night of enlightenment, the Buddha, through awakened wisdom, remembered innumerable lives and was utterly weary of them. He saw that not remembering is the root of ignorance, while remembering it all reveals only endless repetition to the point of disgust. Both lead to the same conclusion: there is nothing in samsara worth clinging to. Some ask, if I could remember past lives, would it be interesting? Would it be interesting to see yourself die tens of thousands of times, to see yourself lose a child thousands of times, to see yourself suffer countless times in hell as a hungry ghost and as an animal? Or would you feel only exhaustion, weariness, and a longing to escape? Ignorance blinds us, so we do not know the way. We are like someone lost in a forest without map or markers, walking in circles. Thus, we are bound in samsara. The Buddha taught that only the path of wisdom breaks ignorance. Only the light of insight shows the nature of life, the reality of suffering, its causes, and the way out. Without it, we are blind in the night, forgetting the past, repeating mistakes, and bearing fruitless retributions without end. So the question for you is this: do you want to go on like someone without memory, forgetting, repeating, suffering through endless lives? Or do you want to light the lamp of wisdom, remember the truth, and stop this meaningless road? Among the 6 realms only, the human realm is truly favorable for practice. Why? Because in the heavenly realms, beings are so comfortable that they lose themselves in pleasure and forget to cultivate. In the hell-hungry ghost and animal realms, suffering and ignorance are so great that there is no mental space for the path. Only humans know suffering, yet still have enough wisdom to arouse the aspiration for the way. Therefore, the Buddha emphasized how exceedingly difficult it is to gain a human body. He used an image that makes all who hear it shudder. He said, suppose a yolk with a small hole is floating on the vast ocean. At the bottom lives a blind turtle who surfaces once every 100 years. What are the chances that when it rises, it will put its head right through that little hole? The monks answered, world-honored one, that is almost impossible, exceedingly difficult. The Buddha nodded. Gaining a human birth is even harder. Do you tremble at this example? In the boundless sea, a blind turtle surfacing once in 100 years must find a small hole in a drifting yolk. How difficult that would be. Yet here you are today, human, able to hear the Dharma, able to discern right from wrong. This is an extraordinarily rare opportunity, but sadly most of us do not cherish it. We use human life for indulgence, contention, and creating new karma. We forget that if we lose it even once, we may wander for millions of lifetimes before we regain a human birth, to say nothing of meeting the Buddha's teaching. Can you be sure that after death you will continue as a human, or will karma draw you into the animal-hungry ghost or hell realms? If that happens, do you know when you will escape and return to human life? Perhaps not for thousands or tens of thousands of lives. By then, will you still remember the Dharma to practice it? In a discourse, the Buddha taught, hard it is to be born human, hard it is to hear the true Dharma, hard it is to be born in an age when a Buddha appears. Today we possess all 3 of these rare conditions. Do we cherish them, or are we letting each day drift by in ignorance, like someone seated upon gold and jewels, without knowing it stooping to gather pebbles? Instead, imagine you were suffering from a terminal illness, and the doctor said, chance of survival was 1 in a million. If that 1 in a million came true, how grateful and how careful would you be? Gaining a human birth and hearing the Dharma are just as rare, yet instead of treasuring them, many people squander them, like someone given a precious gem who turns it into a toy. Have you ever asked yourself what you are using this human body for? Are you cultivating and refining it? Or are you wasting it on fleeting pleasures? What is frightening is that we do not know when this opportunity will end. Death can come at any time. If we have not begun to practice today, and death were to come, will we have the chance to return as humans and continue to practice? If not, would we not have thrown away the most precious opportunity of all? The Buddha told a story. A man fell into the sea and caught hold of a piece of driftwood. He could have used it to swim to shore, but instead he sat upon it contentedly and let the waves carry him away. In the end, he was swept far out and drowned in the ocean. Human beings are the same. To gain a human body is to seize the driftwood, but if we do not use it to cross the sea of birth and death, we will only be carried along by the waves of samsara. Do you wish to be the one who wastes that chance? Or will you awaken, grasp this driftwood firmly, and make for the shore of awakening? If you reflect sincerely, you will see how fragile the opportunity for Practice Island. Why hesitate? Why lose ourselves in brief entertainments and empty ambitions? Why not begin today, right now? In life, all of us fear loneliness. We seek friendship, love and family, hoping for companions so we do not feel alone. Yet there is a truth few dare face. At the most crucial moment, death, every one of us is utterly alone. You may have loving parents, a devoted spouse, dutiful children and loyal friends, but at the final breath, no one can go with you. They may stand by the bed weeping and hold your hand, yet they cannot follow you to the other side. All must stop at the gate of birth and death. Only you step through alone. The Buddha taught parents cannot save their children, children cannot save their parents, friends cannot save one another. At death, only karma follows, as a shadow follows form. That teaching is a bell of awakening. All bonds and attachments must finally be laid down. The only thing that remains is what we have done, thought, and created in this life. Can you imagine it? After a lifetime of memories with loved ones, one day you lie down and close your eyes. This world closes and you fall into another realm. Your loved ones continue living here, while you have moved into a completely different current. Those memories and affections exist only in the minds of others. You have taken on a new form and a new role. Perhaps what pains us most is not death itself, but separation. A wife weeps beside her husband. A child weeps beside her mother. Everyone knows that from this point, the two worlds are apart and cannot meet again. In the endless round of rebirth, we have parted like this beyond counting. The Buddha said, "The tears beings have shed for birth and death and separation are more than the waters of the 4 oceans." That single sentence is enough to show the terrible loneliness in samsara. We love, then lose, then love again, then lose again. And each time, we must depart alone, stepping by ourselves into the dimness of ignorance. Have you ever watched someone in their final moments? People stand around and cry, but at that moment, the dying person seems no longer to hear or see. They sink into darkness. Even with 100 people by the bed, they are completely alone. What is terrifying is that none of us knows where we will go. We may fall into hell, become hungry ghosts, or be born as animals. Our loved ones cannot follow to help us. Only karma, what we have done, guides the way. If wholesome karma is abundant, it leads to a bright place. If unwholesome karma is heavy, it draws us into darkness. Have you ever asked yourself, if tonight were my last night, can I be sure that karma will carry me to safety, or will I fall alone into a realm of suffering where none can save me? Buddhist history tells of a king who loved his queen dearly. When she died, his grief was unbearable. He invited an arahant and asked, Where has my beloved gone? Can I meet her again? The Arahant replied, Great King, she has followed her own karma. However great your love, you cannot hold her back. If you wish to meet again, there is only one way. Cultivate the path to awakening, and only then will love transcend the bonds of birth and death. Otherwise, this love will be separation, followed by separation. Do you feel the ache in this? We think family bonds are a firm refuge, yet in truth, they are only a brief companionship. In the end, each must go alone, and that is the ultimate loneliness of samsara. Yet precisely because this is so, we see the urgency of creating wholesome karma. Since only karma follows us, we must prepare the right provisions. Relatives, wealth and fame do not go along. Only compassion, wisdom and merit are true companions. We have looked at many slices of samsara, from the red flames of hell, the hunger of hungry ghosts, and the ignorance of animals, to the heavenly realms that seem blissful yet end in a fall. We have seen endless partings, roles that change karmic debts, that pile up revenge repaid by revenge ignorance, that veils time drained away. Together they paint a dreadful picture. Samsara is a vortex without an end, a tedious play without finale, a vast prison that confines all beings. The final question is this: is there a way out, or must we endure the turning forever? After awakening beneath the Bodhi tree, the Buddha affirmed that there is a way out, the Noble Eightfold Path. This is the Eightfold Road that leads from delusion to enlightenment, from suffering to peace, from birth and death to nirvana. The Noble Eightfold Path consists of right view, seeing clearly the truth of suffering, its cause, its cessation, and the way that leads to its end. Right intention, thinking rightly, and not letting greed, anger, or delusion dominate. Right speech, pure speech that does not lie, revile, or slander. Right action, wholesome conduct that does not kill, steal, or commit sexual misconduct. Right livelihood, an honest livelihood that harms neither people nor living beings. Right effort, diligent cultivation that abandons unwholesome states and develops wholesome states. Right mindfulness, proper recollection, and wakefulness in each moment. Right concentration, a settled and focused mind that does not scatter, opening onto liberating wisdom. It may sound simple, but this is the only path to break the wheel of birth and death. To escape samsara, we must uproot its cause, and the chief causes are greed, hatred, and delusion. By cultivating the Noble Eightfold Path, we gradually cut off those roots, dispel ignorance, transform karma, and finally step out of the turning of suffering. Do you want to keep letting karma pull you along like a kite swept by the wind, or do you want to hold the string and steer your own flight? Do you want to go on acting in an endless play, or do you want to leave the stage and seek the truth? Behind it, the Buddha did not promise an eternal heaven. He taught a practical path practice to bring samsara to an end. Nirvana is not a far-off place, but a state of mind that is tranquil, free of greed, hatred, and delusion, no longer swept up in the round of birth and death. Then the mind is serene and unbound, without fear, without lament, no longer dying and being reborn. Consider this: if our tears are already more than the waters of the four oceans, and our bones already higher than Mount Sumeru, do we want to shed more tears? Do we still want to pile more bones onto that mountain? If the answer is no, then right now, in this very life, we must begin. Do not think there is plenty of time. Do not think you can wait until tomorrow to practice. Death gives no notice. One breath goes out and does not return, and life is over. If we do not prepare today, will there be a chance tomorrow? Gaining a human birth is difficult. Encountering the Dharma is even more difficult. Cherish this rare opportunity. Turn this brief life into a turning point, so we need not repeat the weary cycle. Dare to ask yourself, do I want to keep wandering in endless samsara, or do I want to put a full stop to the turning of suffering? The answer lies within you, and the key is already in your hands.